Hey everyone, Brian Von VA here. Before we even get started, I just wanted to say, again, if you have a story that's either relevant to today's video, you can post it in the comments below. Yeah, we always tell you use the subreddit, but you know what? If you want to use the comments, because we look at those too. With that said and out of the way, what was your favorite D&D encounter, and what did your character do in it? Part 2. So, it was actually one of those murder mystery interactions for a small village that had a secret werewolf among them. The whole someone that had been infected and been locking themselves up before each transformation due to the lack of control while hiding it, but the murder victim interrupted them and they lost control. That kind of situation. We solved the case, but here's the twist. My human, a human way of the shadow monk who had her own secret, had seen how remorseful the werewolf was for the actions and took his side in defending him from being killed. See, her secret was that she was a were-raven. She knows what it's like to be hunted down for being a lycanthrope. However, she had the ability to control her transformation, and right before everyone, including the party, she transformed, to everyone's horror. The party was flabbergasted, and the townsfolk were horrified at first. My character's goal is to make people understand that just because someone was unlucky enough to be a lycanthrope, they don't deserve to die. Sometimes people go out of their way to try to avoid hurting people. So now we have a werewolf NPC I'm essentially tasked with babysitting. He's got a few levels in Ranger, so he's handy in a fight, but the DM has ruled that due to my support and compassion for helping him, he's able to suppress his animal instincts while in wolf form. Just enough where he won't attack us so long as my character is around to make sure that he's calmed. I've played a lot of D&D, but this is one of my favorite encounters from a more recent game. But I need to set this up just a bit so you can get the full picture. The party consists of Rook, the female Furbolg barbarian, Jazz, the male half-elf wizard bard, Elia, the female half-elf arcana domain cleric, and my character, Lyaria, the female high-elf archfey warlock. Elia is the only remaining member of the original party. Lyaria joined a few in-game months ago, just before the party broke apart. The other two players had to leave due to scheduling conflicts, as one usually does. For about 2 or 3 weeks in-game, the party was just Elia and Lyaria. Rook and Jazz recently joined the party and are very different than the sort of people Elia and Lyaria are used to traveling with. Rook is Jazz's protector and will basically stop at nothing to make sure no harm comes to him. Jazz, on the other hand, is a thrill-seeking adrenaline junkie with ADHD, zero common sense, and more curiosity than 9 cats put together. Essentially, Rook is Jazz's stoic babysitter, and at this particular point in the campaign, she doesn't care about anything except protecting Jazz. My character started out this campaign as an evil character who was planning on using any means necessary to build up an army and march on her homeland to take back her noble house and title, after the other 2 noble houses in her country killed her husband and slaughtered the rest of their house. She'd barely escaped with her mother and siblings. That, however, was before she started to fall for Elia. During the time when Elia and Lyaria were traveling together by themselves, a number of things happened that brought them closer together and hinted at the budding romance beginning between them. The normally cold-hearted Lyaria kneeling beside a crying Elia, genuinely concerned and comforting her over the news of her father being imprisoned. Sharing a bed, laying next to each other for warmth. Lyaria staying awake to keep watch over Elia at night on their travels. Things like that. The fun part of this was the fact that Elia, being sweet and innocent and a bit of a natural flirt, was completely clueless that Lyaria was falling for her. To be fair, Lyaria was also denying it to herself at the time too. This brings us to the current arc of the campaign and the encounter that has come to be one of my favorites. We are in a country that has strict laws against magic, and there's a group called the Mage Hunters who hunt and capture magic users, as they would given the name. We've been asked to help get a few young magic users to safety, because the mage hunters are after them. As we're trying to find them, we keep seeing these fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures down dark alleyways and such. We find where the kids had originally been taken, but they're not there. And there's a bunch of dead mage hunters there who were killed by some strange creature, but we can't figure out what it is. We're able to track down where these kids have been taken next and go to the location. Cue the encounter in question. Dun 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 dun. As we're looking around the place, the kids aren't there, and there's one dead body on the floor upstairs. Lyria, Rook, and Elia all go downstairs while Jazz is upstairs examining the dead body. Suddenly, 3 shadows appear conjured out of our own shadows on the floor. Rook, realizing Jazz is all alone upstairs, immediately turns and runs upstairs, leaving Lyria and Elia to deal with the 3 shadows downstairs. The 3 of them quickly surround us, and Elia immediately gets hit. If you know what shadows are, you know that they don't just deal damage to HP, but they lower your strength score as well. Also, if they take your strength score to 0, you don't roll death saves, you just die outright. Ew, that's not good. Elia takes 4 points of strength damage, and Lyria realizes quickly that this situation could become very bad very quick. In a bit of bad luck that actually worked in our favor, I rolled low in the initiative order, ended up going almost last. So on Elia's turn, Lyria gestured for her to move next to her, which she did. On my turn, Lyria gently slipped her arm around Elia's waist, looked her in the eyes, winked, and said, "Let's get out of here." Thunderstep. Kaboom! Now, it didn't kill the shadows, but it did knock all of them under half HP, and it got us out from the middle of them. After they teleported, Lyria held Elia for just a moment longer than necessary before turning and running to get to the first floor where Rook and Jazz were. And we pretty easily finished the rest of the shadows off from that point. But the little cute moment of roleplay there in that fight, it was a sweet character moment. And it was effective for dealing damage too. My buddy and I managed to take out a plot arc's very flamboyant and smug big bad evil guy, Mind Flayer, who kept eluding us and sabotaging our plans for months in a spectacular fashion. My buddy readied in action to cast a scroll of blade barrier when the big bad evil guy stops gloating. I readied an action to cast force cage on top of the big bad evil guy when my buddy cast their spell. Nothing can enter or leave the force cage, not even spells, and it allows one attempt at escaping it via teleport, which the big bad evil guy failed. We watched them get torn apart in a blender over several turns while their ego deflated, and they begged us to spare them. Unfortunately for them, I was playing a lawful evil character, which I made abundantly clear to them as they died. We were stuck in an infinite mansion within a mysterious fog. The mansion had a vampire family who lures people inside to feed on them. The mansion, being infinite, no one can escape them. Well, my character, an Order of the Lycan Blood Hunter, made it his hunting ground. After killing 2 giant wolves, we fought against the father himself. And guess what? The last thing that father saw was an angry Wendigo tearing him apart with its burning claws. The DM himself said, dude, that's a little overkill. Hey, it's a vampire. Nothing's overkill until they're dead. I was the DM rather than a player, but here's my favorite encounter. Context. A PC's boyfriend was kidnapped, she even received his arm as a threat, oh god, and the party went on a mission to save him. When they got there, they faced multiple illusions based on their fears, with their past traumas being thrown at them. Once they actually found the villain, he used his power to make the entire party look like orcs, which the PC and the boyfriend both hated, and used illusion to transform himself into the PC. Once that was done, he released her boyfriend, who saw the orcs and proceeded to attack the party. Using potions and spells, they managed to hold him off and break his initial illusion without even hurting her boyfriend. something I was not expecting, but I was amazed that they've managed to do so. Then the villain continued to make more illusions of their personal enemies, which kind of teased the fights to come. And I gave everyone inspiration and extra XP for not hurting the PC's boyfriend, and one of the players actually said it was the best session he ever played, which was extremely wholesome. Hey, good job. My favorite encounter was in Pathfinder. Oh my god, yes, I love Pathfinder stories. My DM was doing solo missions after we had finished his homebrew, as our party had been separated, so we each had our own individual quests or missions. My character, Disgruntled, had his quest, which was the final with my friend, the DM, before I moved away. The DM then started solo quests for each player. Disgruntled's quest started badly. He ended up somewhere that he'd never had been before. He tried to communicate with people, but no one could figure out what he wanted. Eventually, he threatened and bribed and bartered his way into getting a full, human-sized barrel of dwarven mead. Yes! He left the town with his mead and traveled for a bit. Soon he came to a crossroads by a lake, where he simply plopped down next to the signpost and started drinking straight out of the barrel. A traveling sellsword mercenary approached him, making signs of peace to Disgruntled, and began talking with him, asking who he is, how he got there, and even asked why he was so depressed. Disgruntled tells this man his story, but literally all he was saying was, "Disgruntled," over and over again, like Groot. Somehow the sellsword understands him, and Disgruntled is so absorbed in the conversation, it never dawns on him what's actually happening. The sellsword is listening intently and laughing at the hilarity of some parts of the story when he sees the dwarven mead barrel. He produces 2 tankards and challenges Disgruntled to a drinking contest. With a natural 20, Disgruntled outdrank the sellsword. High five, Disgruntled. Even though he lost, the sellsword laughed happily and gleefully spoke the name Disgruntolden. Disgruntled, hearing his real name, suddenly became sober. "You, my friend, are hilarious, and I would love to talk with you more often. I am Callian. I can also make it so others can understand you, but I will need to make you a cleric of mine." Disgruntled knelt before the god and accepted, but Caden was not satisfied. Taking his own tankard and his staff, he slammed the staff into the side of the tankard. Disgruntled was blinded by a brilliant flash, and when his vision returned, Caden was holding a golden hammer, with the middle part of the head shaped like a tankard. The tankard lid had an 8-inch war spike on top, and the hammer's face was 10 inches in diameter. Caden smiled and held out the hammer, saying, "I present to you the Dwarven War Tankard." Yes! Jeez, this is awesome. The war hammer was spec'd out like a Dwarven light hammer. However, this hammer was hollow on the inside of the tankard portion, specifically for storing Dwarven mead in it. The spike cap opened for mead storage. Dwarven mead stored inside the hammer in this way gained the effect of a potion of healing. Also, if you rolled a 20 on an attack while the hammer was full of Dwarven mead, your enemy immediately became drunk and disoriented. Oh, that is such a cool weapon. Caden also made Disgruntled's armor match the hammer, and on that spot near the crossroads, Disgruntled began building a temple to Callian. My DM made Disgruntled an immortal NPC, since I was no longer going to be able to play after I moved. Several months later, when the party found Disgruntled, they found him as head cleric to Callian's temple and brewery. That is so goddamn cool, and I am so jealous because I love dwarvish everything. Hey everyone, it's your favorite narrator from Ohio, Brian Von VA, back at it again, checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, to subscribe, to ring that bell, and to always come back to see what kind of new devilry we've got cooking up here. If you have a story that you'd like to tell us, be it relevant to today's video or not, you can do so in the comments below or on r/MrRipper. Whichever place you choose, we're going to be looking for those, so you might get lucky and your story might get read live here on a video. That being said, you can come say hi to me, Brian, over on my website, Brian Von VA, where you can literally check me out on every single social media I got. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, I try to end things on a positive note. Today is no different. I know that people work hard out there, and I know sometimes the world drains you completely dry like wringing out a sponge. But remember, the world's going to keep on moving, and yeah, you might need a day or two to relax and to recuperate, and honestly, all of you are worth that. Take your time. The world ain't going anywhere. It's going to go forward, yeah, but you're not going to be left behind. It's okay to take a day off or 2 days off or 3 days off even if you really need to. Recuperate, rest, heal your mind and heal your soul so you can give it your all when you dive right back in. All the love, be safe, be happy. I'll see you next time.